Hello again, friends. It is wonderful to have this opportunity to come together to be in a study that is propelling us to be more and more as God intends. As we join together this week, we are looking at the 14th chapter of Glory Days by Max Lucado, The God-Drenched Mind. I would say that this chapter can best be labeled also God-centered focus. And as we're going to center our time around that, let's center our hearts. Let's come to God in prayer. Do you pray with me? Life-giving God, we come to recognize your movement within our lives. We pause to study, to reflect, and to grow as you intend for us to be. Help us in our time together to be inspired, to be challenged, and to be convicted in such a way that we would transform our lives to live more fully as you intend. For in your holy name we pray. Amen. Well, Max is clear from the get-go of this chapter that we all live a life that includes one thing, and that's problems. We have problems and we have concerns, we have things we must deal with. But how we handle those, how we address the issues that we face in our lives can indeed make all the difference. And more importantly than just how we do it, but where we put our focus. If we focus our eyes and our hearts and our minds completely on God, or if we allow that which we are dealing with to consume us, to overrun our minds and our whole being. Frankly, there may be some times where we allow both to happen. We allow that problem, that pebble in our shoe to just be that irritant that gets our focus and gets our attention in a way that God would never have for us. And then there are other times where we're like, all I can do is turn this over to God. All I can do is think about God's goodness and God's grace and God's power, and that's enough. So sometimes we get it right, and sometimes, quite frankly, my dear friends, we do not. But as we walk through this chapter today, I want to lift up one individual that Max says is a role model for us, is one who inspires us, and that is Caleb. We hear in the book of Numbers this one sentence: "My servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly." Well, where does that notion that Caleb follows God differently come from? Well, Max says it is definitely recorded within this our chapter that we are looking at today from the book of Joshua. We are now looking specifically at chapter 14, verses 6 through 15. And I actually, it is a longer text than I would normally read, but it is so good. It is so right for us to hear this. I'm going to read it to you today. Caleb said to Joshua, "You know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea, a spy out the land. And I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God. So Moses swore on that day, saying, surely the land where your foot has trodden shall be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord, your God. And now behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now here I am this day, 85 years old. As yet, I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me, just as my strength was then. So now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now therefore give me this mountain of which the Lord spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the city were great and fortified. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said. Caleb repeatedly claims the Lord is the one. He's not saying, as I. He's not saying, because I'm strong, because I'm wise, because I am mightier than others. No, he keeps claiming that the only reason that he is to have this is because the Lord is the one who's promised it. It is the Lord who is giving him this gift. And he's willing to accept it. He's ready to embrace it. And that is the question for all of us is, do we have a vision that is from the Lord? Or is it only something that we have been able to conjure up, that it's only from our pint-sized mind that we have been able to give this ability to ourselves, and it is not what God has for us? Max lifts up that Caleb wanted to do something great for God. He lived for a higher calling. I really want to take some time to have you process that with me today. There are callings, and then there are higher callings. There are things in this world that make temporary differences, and that's okay. But there are things that make eternal differences. There are things that are of great importance. And so Max is asking us, are we focused on something that is too small? And therefore we focus on the problems and the trials of this life. Or are we focused on something so great, on such a magnificent cause, that therefore our minds are set on the holy and not the trivial? Max talks about someone who really gave his life for the service of the Lord. And this man was somebody who could have had lots of luxury. He could have had things that made him very comfortable. Yet he found a greater cause, a greater good to be about. Do you have that holy cause, that mission that is worth living for? Or are you just simply grinding out your days, one after another after another? You see, that holy calling may be that you travel and you offer your services to the poorest of the poor. It could be a neighbor who simply needs encouragement. It could be that there's some inmates at a local prison that need to be taught. It could mean that there's a child who simply needs to be smiled upon and shown that they are of great worth. You see, in the kingdom of Christ, we truly are enriched when we bless others. It's not when we take, it's not when we grab, but when we give, when we release, when we allow, that we are very much so blessed. We need to focus on things that put our thoughts in a higher place. Colossians 3 verse 2 says, "Set your minds and keep them set on what is above," on higher things. What are you doing, my dear friends, to do that in your life? That's one of the questions is how are you producing higher thoughts? Because I will tell you that it is just a slippery slope, one that we will keep going down over and over if we do not embrace the higher thoughts. We will slide right on down. And so, my friends, can you imagine your life with a purpose that is from God? Can you imagine something that is bigger than self? Something that allows you to keep your eyes focused on what matters most. And I would tell you, if you're able to do that, then you will indeed be like Caleb, and you will go and you will receive that which God has for you. May you be encouraged today. May you be strengthened in your walk. And if you are struggling to think about things that are from a higher perspective, please know again, reach out. I'm here to support you and encourage you in your journey with God. God bless you.